All right, good morning, everyone. We are ready to get started. My name is Jennifer Morse. I am with MadCap Software. I want to thank all of you for joining today. We are so happy that you are here. Today's session is going to be fun because we're going to showcase some of the seemingly small but very mighty features of Flare that can help you be more productive day to day. So whether you've been using Flare for years or just starting out, I think you're going to take away a pearl or two, maybe more, that you can put to practice right away. Nothing like pro tips to make your day more effective is what I like to say. So joining me today is Daphna Edgar, Boston-based technical writer, advanced Flare developer, longtime Flare user. In fact, someone I've had the pleasure of working with and having part of our Flare community since I think Flare version 1. And I am so thrilled to have her here today. So welcome, Daphna. Thanks for joining us and sharing your knowledge and tips. We have a lot to cover. So folks are still funneling in, and that's fine. Before we jump in and I turn it all over to Daphna, I just want to review two quick items of business that we always like to cover before we jump in. Oops, there you go.
Sorry.
It's okay. First of all, this webinar will be recorded. And so if you have to pop out early, not to worry, we're going to send an email link out to all of the registrants so you can view the recording. Also, there is a question panel in the GoToWebinar console. This is where you can ask questions along the way. We have a lot to cover today. And so, we might not get to all of the questions that come in, but whatever we don't get to live, we will follow up with a question and answer document. So please feel free to post questions there in the GoToWebinar question area there so that we can hopefully get to as many as we can at the end of the session today. So with that, Daphna, welcome once again. Thanks so much for joining. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Jen. I'm so excited to be here. As Jen said, I'm a Boston-based technical writer, and I've been using Flare since version 1, since somehow I convinced my company there's this new thing and can we buy it? And they said yes, and I haven't looked back since. And I'm going to just kind of share with you some of my favorite stuff. I learn things about Flare every single day. So it's not the same presentation as I would have done a year ago or next week even, because there's always something that makes my job easier and my life a little more interesting. When I'm not using Flare, as you'll see, I really like to bake and cook, and I do love a good pun. So with that, we'll move on. So it's kind of an overview of just a little bit why a guy named Simon and some software changed my life. So it was love at first sight. I was at an industry conference, 17, 18 years ago. And, I was, had been in the middle of, working with different tools and like rearranging and bringing them back and forth between tools, and like moving cells and columns and cutting and pasting. And, I was at this conference and we turned around and there was this company with this cute little logo, and I saw a demo of being able to like drag alternate colored table rows up and down. I was like, oh, I need this. This will make my life so much better. It'll change my life. And, hasn't changed since. So that's, and so I, got it as soon as it, was off the shelf. They came in these really nice, beautiful boxes at that point if you wanted a CD to install it. So those were cute. I've been using it ever since, and I've used other kind of tools in the suite that go along with it as they've been introduced and as they make sense for my needs and my customer needs. What I love about Flare is that it helps me solve problems I didn't know I had. And then when I'm thinking about things, Flare helps me think about how to deliver and gives me tools to deliver content in ways that are most accessible to users and easiest to manage on my part and, colleagues. So there's our friend Simon. I'm just going to go over some things. Like I said, this is how it changed my life during a pandemic. So, life, as we all know, life was a little monotonous. So it's lather, rinse, repeat. Some Flare boredom busters. So I'll go back and forth between my slides and Flare to show you a couple things. So we've all been there. You have repetitive tasks that take time away from your Flare playground, put you to sleep. Here's some ways to get back to the cool bells and whistles with an extra question mark there. So with that, I'll go into Flare and go over a couple things. There's repeat last action, macros, and using snippets to set up formatting. So I'm going to go into Flare. So this repeat last action, this was like, I've been waiting for this. I had been waiting for this since version 1. I was like pushing, a keyboard shortcut from another program, like doesn't work. And sure enough, it didn't have it. And, it was and I put it in, feature request. And years later, it came out, and honestly, I said to Jen, like, oh, thank you so much. And she came up with really this title. She goes, those small but mighty features, small but mighty features. So, if I want to, I didn't finish this. This is some work in progress. So, say I wanted to apply, I'm ready to put the ingredients here. So I'll set up my H2. You'll see why this funny font is there later. So say I wanted to, I did that. Want to do it again. Here's another H2. And say I wanted to do that again here. I can just do this is the default keyboard shortcut. I'm pressing F8 and see that becomes H2. So anytime, anything on the kind of the XML editor, when you do something, I'm inserting a bullet. If I want to press F8, I do that undid it. Yeah, let me do some stuff. Here's another. Say I change this to H3 for some reason. I can press my F8, press this the same way. That was my typo. Excuse me. So it's just really, really great to use when you're doing that kind of, manual formatting, or when somebody, somebody gives you like a Word document or some other piece of source content, and you're trying to, copy and paste some stuff, or from an email, and you got to format it. It's just really quick and easy rather than always having to go up here, to your window. The other thing that I have just, I always knew it was there, but I've just kind of started using it recently more, is macros. So you can record macros. So say I'm going to put a table in. So you press record and sample table. Okay, so that's what my macro is called. Now I'm going to my, I'm going to insert a table. Where's my table? Insert table. I apply my table style. Yeah, properties. Okay, so this is what I want, Oh, I don't know how that got there. And then I'm going to go back to my macro, and I'm going to go stop. So then say I want to do the same thing again. I'm going to do playback, sample table, and it puts the same thing in. So, this is, I don't know how this this got in here. It's probably like on my clipboard or something, but it's another way to just like do something, like a format or something that you have to do over and over and over again. And oh, I did this time, I did this last time, I'm going to do it again. I do this a lot with tables when I get like somebody gives me like a Word document, and there's a long table in it, and I want to either import it to Flare, or just kind of copy and paste it from Word and paste it as a table. But then I want to apply whatever table styles I have in a project. I just have that playback, and it just applies whatever table style. And so you can just record a bunch of these. You can manage them if you ever want to delete them, if you want to assign shortcuts, if you have a shortcut you want to clear. There's like so much you can do in Flare. Like if you're bored, if you don't have anything else to do, just learn something else in Flare. Another thing that I like to do, I do this a lot with like formatted lists that, like with indented nested lists, it's you have to do this and you have to press the tab key. what I tend to do is I have a lot of snippets that I use. I set up in advance and I reuse them. So I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut here. And again, I'm using the default, but you can change the defaults. So here's my snippet that I did Control R. And I have this pre-ordered snippet, ordered, unordered list. I do OK. So it's all set up the way I wanted. Then I just do convert to text. It's no longer a snippet. And then I can start, adding my content rather than formatting my list and, remembering if I didn't indent or outdent right, and then I lose my list. I have kind of a pre-formatted way of doing things. So that can, lists, tables, all kinds of things, depending on what your work is like. So that is kind of the quick and dirty of your boredom. The next thing is, you got to clean up, spring cleaning, although it's winter coming. You want to keep your project clean and tidy. There's a lot of reasons. You might just want to not see all these, you might have problems, and you might want to you have a lot of unused stuff. So you might want to clean it out. That just makes it easier on the eye. And also when you're building, there's like like an HTML5, it goes through everything and all your conditions, all your rules. So if there's stuff you're not using, Flare doesn't have to think, oh, this is excluded. This is not part of the rules. It's just going to keep everything keep going faster. So, and again, back to the pandemic. Anybody do some clean outs? I cleaned out duplicate, triplicate spices, shoes that don't fit, expired meds, and Flare projects. And you don't have to worry if you missed out, because the pandemic's not over. You have plenty of time to make friends with the Flare analysis ribbon. So we'll go back to Flare. And there's a lot you can do with the analysis ribbon. All summary kinds of stuff. Some of my favorites, you can broken links and broken bookmarks. So here's all my broken links. So it's telling me all these places that, who knows why they're broken. Maybe I forgot I had it. Maybe somehow somebody deleted it from Windows Explorer instead of from Flare, so we weren't notified. So this is a great way to know, oh, these are broken, I need to fix them. You can also do broken bookmarks. Here's another one that's come in handy. Where I work there, we're doing like a big kind of transferring over this learning center website, and all these links are going to change, like relative links between, and they were going to hire an outside consultant to like run these scans against all these, links. That's like, if it's in Flare, you don't need to pay somebody else because we already paid for this. I did an external link. There's none here in this kind of sample project, but if I had external links, they would show me like the same kind of thing as where it gives you all the information, where it's from, where it's going, what's the problem, or, all the kind of information you might need. It's going to tell me the external links. So then I can, if we change our, the path of our URL, we can figure out the pattern, and then we can just do a code change and, change our links and then regenerate the outputs. So that is another favorite. Another thing that I really like is unused items. So say, you need to clean out your you're not using something, you're not going to use it, it's obsolete, you don't need to save it, it was test. You can do an unused item, tells you, what it is, and you can actually pick and choose, or you can just go, you can pick a few, you say, okay, it's not, yeah, you can pick a bunch. I'm not using it, I'm going to delete those. I'm confident that I don't need them. Sending them to the recycle bin. So that clean, it's like a couple minutes, between meetings, you do a little clean out. You can even restore them from your recycle bin, just like with anything. There's a whole lot of other stuff here, just different file issues, all kinds of reports. It honestly depends what what else you have set up. We'll talk a little bit with concepts later. So, if you're not using concepts in your project at all, if it's not part of your workflow yet or ever, you don't need to worry about this. But, as we'll see later, when I go back to this, I've got a whole bunch of topics without concepts, or, there's also snippets, and now I might not want concepts in them, but this gives me a lot of information about where I might start to do some cleanup and project optimization quick with reports. And I think it saves a lot of the reports in your Project Explorer. If you go to your reports, I think it's I'm something to look into. I'm not 100% sure, but it does allow you to save reports if you want to, send them to someone else or have them somewhere. There's all, kinds of ways to use the information that Flare gives you in the way that works for your work flow. So that's just kind of quick housekeeping stuff. We went over, but still, you clean this up. I don't do windows. You can still keep your project clean and tidy. Flare windows are streak free. You can save Flare window layouts to go to set up preferred workspaces for different tasks in the work environment. If you can't find it, you can always go back to the factory layouts, what you got when you just installed Flare for the first time. So, this is something I use sometimes. It's like this is more like a personal preference of your workflow than actually like whether your customers need this. So, this looks like a pretty, there's some other stuff here, but I can see, okay, I want to reset layout. So I want to make sure I'm going back to the Flare. So it's going to probably close some things in here because it's going to factory layouts. I think I had find and replace open, wasn't, it closed it. This is kind of what you usually get in Flare. Got a bunch of stuff open, but goes to my start page. But I've got some other layouts, like say, I usually work with multiple monitors, but sometimes I'm traveling and I just have my laptop on me and I want to have, I just want to do some authoring or editing on my own work or proofreading and such. I don't need to do, my Content Explorer. I don't need, to do like concepts and glossary entries, all that stuff. I really just want to maximize my space. So I have a window layout called Laptop. And then you'll see there is that I've got other things are collapsed. I just have my workspace. This is too busy here. I'm gonna close stuff. Here's a fun one. You can close this, or if you get like I'm now, like it's a little overwhelming, close all but this. You just have one thing open. Can close things, and you can always get back to everything. You can still, the ribbons are still fully functional. It's just like what you have. So you can, if you see like a window layout you like, say, we'll talk a little more about one of the uses of concepts later, and you just want to, it took me like years of looking up in the help, like, where's that concept window? I kept forgetting. Now I've got it set, but I don't know, it was one of those things that was like, I had a mental block about remembering where it was. So I could just set up a concept, save window layout as concept entry. Then it's there, it's saved. And then, say I want to go back to, at some point I'm on the road, I go back to my, I'm back at my desk. I want to just have my friendly Flare authoring environment that I'm, standard setup. So this is, everything's there, but then, I want to go back to my concept window. So here I have it. It opens that, and there's all kinds of ways you might not like, the vertical way. You might want to have some things horizontal, even though Flare has it by default vertical. You can just set up your own windows, and you can always, go back to any of them, or you can go back to the Flare default. So that's a fun one. Now, sometimes you clean and tidy. I do this all the time, and I still can't find anything. Where is that? But no need to fear. Flare searches here. You can implement, and some of the things that I really like, that search filters I've been really wanting to use for years. There's like, it's not as small and simple as maybe repeat last action, but it's pretty mighty once you get the hang of it. Some of these things that I'm going to start to talk about, you need to put some brain power into just kind of getting it wired in your brain, kind of the logic of it, but once you do, it makes sense. So search filters is a big thing that I've been able to implement recently. And then this I kind of discovered by accident. You know, we're all busy. I know Jen does these great webinars when there's a new release, but you don't always have time to go to them. And then sometimes I just stumble on things. And so this, including glossary search terms in search results, was a gem. So I'll do that one first because I just love it. So I'm going to go back to my factory layout because I want to do this right now. So in your project organizer, you have glossaries. And you can set up, you know, different glossaries. There's lots of options, things you can do with glossaries, and conditionalize them, and stems, all kinds of things that could like lead you down a rabbit hole and, you know, keep you busy all day. And then, you know, as many glossary sets as you have, you can include, you know, one or more in your target for output. So I've set up, you know, I gave you a little bit of a teaser that I like to cook. So you'll be seeing a lot of cooking related things when I show you a little, some more examples. So I went to, I set up a glossary set called methods. So I have a bunch of cooking methods: braise, parboil, poach, roast. If we look at my output, I think it's rebuilding. It'll just take a second. So the search terms are available. I should have showed you that actually. I'll do that. I should take a step back just to, you know, again, like I'm used to doing this every day. So if you go into your target, you go into glossary and you select the glossary terms that you want to appear, want to be included in your output. And then in terms of the search, there's this search panel. And again, I was where I work, we needed a sitemap. So I was like looking into that and setting that up. And I said, what is this? I'd never heard of these advanced search options. I was like, I'm opening this. I want to see what this is. Can't wait. And I saw like, wait, what is this? In search, include glossary results in the search terms? I was like, whoa. So I, you know, I had a little time that day. I tried it. And what you get is, so I search for poach. And you can see there's no regular search terms because I haven't finished writing my recipes. So I haven't written yet any you know, the recipe, I haven't given poach as a direction, but I do have poach as a glossary search term. So that's kind of independent search result from just your content search results. It's looking to your glossary names and definitions, and it's returning them. Other terms that I put in here, like braise, okay, still only, you know, no, but here, okay, here, whisk, we have a definition, and then we have a search term result. So it found the word whisk in this chocolate sour cream cake, and it also found it as a search term result. As a glossary, you know, it included it in the search. And you know, I'm sure where a lot of you work, like people just want to know what something means, whether it's like a technical term, an industry term, or something like you know, sometimes people, you know, there's different ways to spell this, obviously, but, you know, it's like, this is a cooking thing. So we're going to talk about things that are, you know, food related, but, you know, if HUMUS, if you were a gardener, it would have a different, you know, meaning. So you can really put the glossary, you know, that what it means for your thing. You know, there could also be terms that are, you know, people that are consuming your product, but are, you know, not native speakers of, the language that's written in. So for them, if they looked in a dictionary, they might get a lot of terms that are definitions of the word, but that don't actually mean what they'd have to figure out. Well, what is it in this context? So this is a way to, they look it up, they see this word they don't understand, they look for it here. You give them a definition in their, in context. They don't have to look, they don't have to go any further. It's right there. If they really just need the definition, it's there. So I really like this. I've started using it and showing it to people. Again, it's like another thing to set up, because then you need to define everything in your glossary terms, but I think it's worth the effort when you have, when there's a need and you have the time. So that is enough about cleaning, right? More about like other inconveniences. You couldn't get your hair snipped during the pandemic, right? I had it was months before I got a haircut, but I just upped my snippet game with snippet conditions and snippet variables. I remember when snippet conditions came out as a feature, and you gotta keep the logic kind of going. And you have to figure out, you have to make it connect in your mind how it works. It's a little bit, you gotta play with it, test it. I just kind of put myself in a little conference room pretty much for a whole day, and then was very satisfied at the end of it. And when I first started using Flare and they had snippets, or when it came out, I can't remember exactly when every feature came out, but snippets was great, because I could reuse the same note, caution, don't do this. I could reuse it in multiple places. But these snippet conditions and then later snippet variables, it actually lets you take a snippet, put it in a topic, and it drills down lower and lower to your content reuse and single sourcing, that you can insert, even if you're not using that snippet anywhere else, you can insert a snippet into a topic and have different content coming from the same snippet in the same topic. And that, it just kind of blew my mind away. So we'll go into that. And again, this is a little more complicated. It's not, once you learn it, it feels small, but the first time it'll definitely feel mighty, but maybe not so small. But so we'll go to my chocolate sour cream cake. Really good cake. I'm missing one, but that's okay. I don't need that one here. So you'll see that I have a snippet here. Now I'm only using this. I only have one use of this snippet. There's only one topic, chocolate sour cream cake, right now. But there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to put it in a snippet. So you'll see, a whole things going on here. I have two rows called ingredient, and right now you see only one that says ingredient. This one should say, no, this is measurement, this is ingredient. So you only see one column that says ingredient, and you'll see, these are kind of US kind of measurements, universal, ounces, cups, teaspoons. But if I were to open my snippet, you're going to see I have two columns called ingredient. This is my Halloween font that you'll see later. It's really kind of funky, but it was it was fun. So I know it doesn't look right here, but it was kind of fun to have. So just gotta have fun sometimes, right? So in the snippet, I have this set up as a condition. This whole column I have a condition that's imperial measurement, and this one's metric. Now, when I go into the topic, I only see one conditionalized column, and that's because I went in at the topic level, and I did have to click somewhere that's in the topic. Oh, because okay, topic level and topic properties, and there's a tab called snippet conditions here. So, and you can use any conditions. I often just set up if I'm, I know something that I'm really only going to use a snippet, for the purposes and snippet conditions, I always put, I call it SC snippet condition. It's just kind of, I didn't set this one up, but just did that to show you. But so I have in this topic, I have included imperial and I've excluded metric. But say, I'm doing the UK version of this cookbook. So I'm going to exclude imperial and include metric. And then all of a sudden, so what you see here, you're only going to see what you want to have. But if that wasn't exciting enough, you can do it, say you were using, for some reason, say you had like a note warning and you were using the same one in the same topic, but they needed to be a little different. You can go at a lower level because Flare, everything starts the hierarchy of the project. And then there's like the condition set, and then you can do it at the target, you can do it at the topic, and then you can do it at the actual condition, the snippet level. So then when I click on the snippet and I do it, I want to go back to, I want to do it here. I want to include this, exclude metric, back to the imperial. So you could go lower and lower, and the lowest level is going to override the higher level. So because even though at the topic level I set it one way, because at a lower level, at the snippet level within the topic, I set it another way, that's going to take precedence. Now, the other thing you can do is this was introduced a little later, and took me a while to say, oh, I really need to look into those snippet variables, but I don't have time. But honestly, like once I finally got to doing it, I had already had those like neural pathways set up to understand how snippet conditions work. So once I put a little time, and time, I mean like 10 minutes into snippet variables, I understood them. So here is a variable. I can go to there is a variable set at the target level if I want. There's a main variable if I want. You can go at the topic properties, and you can go to snippet variables. And which one was that? That was the cocoa ingredients. So, and you can actually have multiple definitions for a variable that you can set. So say I want to, this is British, you get, go back and forth between the British version and the US version. So instead of using like Cadbury, I want to, I want to use Ghirardelli. So you see how it switches. And you can even, if you want, you do snippet variables, you can even go in and say, you can just override this, I think. Yes. Hershey. So it's really, really powerful. You only run, it takes time. First of all, it takes time to understand and just to make it kind of work a day. And, it's not worth doing if it doesn't make sense for your content. It does take time to set up, but it can be super powerful and fun, I think. But yeah, that's me. I think like these just have so much power and really let you deliver, and I started, I have like people, product managers or whatever, they're like, but, this is going to be really hard to maintain. And what if this? And I was like, no need to fear. Flare snippets are here. I'm a little more serious with them, but, once I tell them, they're like, oh, that's great. So I really kind of market these features to them as a way of, they make my life more fun and easier, but when I present it to them, it solves their problems too. It's, I'm sure every company is into the user experience, and it really, they can see how this will help, to be able to, they said it's too much work for you to maintain this version and that version. I said, I don't need to maintain 2 versions. I have it all set. I have bells and whistles. That was an extra slide, I think. So So this is like the, the star of the CSS variables. This came out a couple years ago, and it was a lifeline in my career of rebranding. I have spent years, we're changing the name of the company, but not yet, but it needs to be ready. Oh, we've been bought out. We need to change the colors. We're doing it again. We need to do that. We need to, now we have 6 business lines, so we're gonna have 6 colors. And that happened when CSS variables came out. So I took it to myself again to put myself in a conference room, or I was probably working at home, a couple of days a week by then, and just really focused. And so what CSS variables are and how they rock my world, I'm gonna show you. So I'm going to go into my style sheet, and so that, and you'll see why I put this like very weird font to have fun. So if you go to your content organizer, go to your style sheet, and when the first release of CSS variables, you had to do it in the code editor. You couldn't do it on the the style sheet editor. So that actually was like a time when I started my foray into like having a little more confidence into going into the code in general for things that you want to fix, or things that are not implemented yet in the style sheet editor. So, but now you can do it in style sheet editor. So I'm going to open this in the style sheet editor. And there's a section called variables. So the CSS variables, I've just worked with root variables. I know there's other ways you can use them, but I haven't. I've just been working with the root variables, and it's been very powerful. So what you need to do when you add these, you need to make sure that you show properties set in the style sheet. Now, what I did here is I made a couple of variables. So I'm going to do another one just so we can see how it is. So I put a couple of colors and a couple of fonts. This keeps getting reset, but I'll just leave it as cursive, or I can change it to something else. Just do this one for fun, right? But say I needed, another one. There's this little thing here called CSS variables. Add new CSS variable. So this is going into the root element in the HTML5, and I'm going to do test. And then there's different property types. So you can do color, font family, image, size. I mostly use color and font family, but that's because I haven't thought of, I haven't had a need or, to use the others, but I might one day, and then I'll test it a little more. So, okay, I want to make a property type of the font family. So then all the values that are going to come up as my, the fonts that are installed on my computer. So I can, like this. So then these are going to be available when I go to, to define the properties of a style. Instead of setting the color, I'm going to define the color here, and then I'm just going to use this as the variable. So if I go, like my H1, I have this, I have this set up. Right now, I'm using this color, holiday color 1. If I go and change holiday color 1, to, say we're working on another holiday, I'm gonna go change it, blue, that'll be blue, and say we want to change our holiday font. And again, I found some fun fonts. They're really not that, for our purposes, they're fun. They don't always look, like I have to play with them to present them. But here there's like a dreidel font. So I define my H1. I'll go back to this. I don't think I showed it enough. H1 holiday, I didn't add a color. I inserted a CSS variable. So there's already one there. So insert CSS variables. So when instead of selecting, a color or inserting a color, I chose to use this holiday color, and I can use that holiday color CSS variable anywhere I want to go, and then I only have to change it in one place. So I didn't choose a good color when we looked at it; it just was too light. So I'm going to go back to my variables. Holiday color 1. I meant to choose a blue. I just made a mistake. But imagine if you made a mistake in all your headings and your bodies, and you have to go in and change them, or do a code search and change them there. Instead, I'm going to do it here. Then we go back here and see. So I should, it's not very elegant. It's not an elegant font, but then it's like you got all these dreidels as the first letter. That's that font. So it's really powerful. Like I said, where I was working, they said, okay, we have 6 business lines. Like I'm the kind of the template master person who we had some customization done, and I kind of manage the templates and propagate them to other people. But everybody, you're working on your business line, your color is blue and yours is purple and yours is green. So all they had to do, instead of before CSS variables, they did a code search and like replaced all your number this for each, every time you found number this, you did it, you replace it with number this. Now all they had to do is go into the style sheet, and I actually have there's like a code commented out that has all the business line colors, so they don't have to look them up. And all they have to do is change, there's like 3 places where they need to change it. So it was fantastic. One trick that I figured out that the folks in support were about to enter an enhancement request for me, and I figured out something really fun that I taught them. So that was exciting. That's my life. Because I went into the tables and I realized that the tables don't have a way for you to use. There's no way to insert a CSS variable in the tables, and we needed the shading of the header to match the business line, and then depending on the color, sometimes the font was black, sometimes it was white, and I was a little bit disappointed that I couldn't find a way to assign those in the table styles. This is just a sample, so I just have one table style, but we've got a bunch, where I work. What I figured out is that you could actually go to the main style sheet that you're using, and there are actually a couple of table-related settings here, so you can set some defaults. So you can see here that I have my table header set at my default. I'm using holiday color 1 and holiday font 1. I can maybe change that to holiday font 2. I do insert CS variable. Maybe I want to change that to a different font, because that holiday font 2, a little easier on the eye. So these these table related, and I haven't played with all of them. I mostly have been using the table header. When you set colors and some properties related to the table here, when you go into your actual table style sheets, if you choose default as your color, so on the header, if I choose my color as default on the header, it's going to pick up, this is the background. It's again, it's a little bit of a logic game sometimes, but maybe it didn't pick up. It definitely, when you choose default, it's going to go to the defaults of the main style sheet of your, I don't know why this is not, maybe didn't save, because I thought font family, table header, font color. maybe I'll change it, but I don't know. Sometimes it, you know what, I think it might not show in the preview. I'm having a little bit of a mental block on this because it does take some playing around, and sometimes I think you have to maybe close Flare or refresh, but it works really, really well. Like, I was really happy when I figured that out. So that is, it's you know, if it makes sense for the kind of styles you have and your style needs and different colors, different places, you know, that change a lot, definitely spend a little time understanding CSS variables and implementing them. Been really happy. Okay. Oh, you know, okay. So I forgot one slide that I'll add, but what oh no, I didn't forget the slide. I forgot to talk to you about it when I was talking about search, because I was so excited about the glossary and search term that I forgot to talk about the search filters. So I really like these. I've started implementing them recently and really gotten a lot of good feedback and results. So if I go into my TOC, I've got a bunch of stuff here. And what I've done, there's a couple things you need to do here. So we'll go back into our chocolate cake. Where was that? Dessert, chocolate sour cream cake. You'll see these little things here. You know, this is stuff that you'll only see. This is not, these are concept entries. So if you go to the view menu, oh no, I'm gonna go to my window layout. I set that up. I don't need to remember where that is. Concept entries. Where's my chocolate cake? Where's my chocolate cake? Here it is. I've got this set up. I've associated this concept dessert with this. I've got a bunch of other concepts that I've already set up. So if I wanted to set up another concept that's not here yet, I could set that up. It would be added. I can also, if I have ones that already exist in the project, I can just drag it over, and it actually, you know, Flare gives you bunch of things. So once you set that up, I'll go into another one that I haven't set up. Here is my mother's Jell-O mold. This was a fan favorite when we were growing up. And I forgot to put, I could have gone to my analysis ribbon, you know, if I wanted to figure out where I hadn't had time or forgotten to put my concepts in. So I could, you know, we looked at that before, but I remembered this. We actually remade this a couple of years ago. It's just as delicious as it was many years ago. So it's a dessert. It's vegetarian, and it's vintage or classic. You know, I don't need to use all these, but it's just kind of fun. So that's one step of what you do, that you kind of tag all, you kind of set this metadata, you set this tag on your whatever topics you want. You can do as many concepts as you want. Now I'm going to go back to my factory layout because this isn't working for me now. Then what you do, go to your project organizer, and you go to search, filter, project advanced, file tags, where is it? Search filters, here we go. So you can have, you know, more than one. And so then what you do, the filters are actually what's going to show up. So I want my filters to be chocolate, dessert, main dishes, fruit, vegetarian. So anything before that I tagged as chocolate is going to show up in that search filter. Dessert, you know, I made a mistake when I was setting things up, and I, you know, tagged some things at main courses, some as main dishes. I know they're the same thing. Nobody's going to see this. So when I made a main dish search filter set, I just put both of these concepts. You can put all the concepts in you want, you know, there's a salad there that's a main dish, whatever. So you can just add whatever. Then when you go and build it, I'm going to build my US version. We might have, we played with our snippet variables and snippet conditions. I can't remember what I said at the lower level, so this might be imperfect, but I just want to show you the search filters. So in here, we have my Halloween font. That's Halloween, this was from our CSS variable. So here's a regular search. I search for chocolate. I've got chocolate hummus. I've got, a bunch of entries. So sometimes, this is easy to manage because it's limited, but sometimes you have hundreds of results and you really want to be able to refine things and really design your content for your users. So, and again, all of this you can have, this is just a Flare template, but you can play with the styles, you can customize, this is just a default look. So this little thing here, you have this search filters. So here's all of those items I set in that filter. So if I look for, I'll go under desserts. So I'll go into dessert and I look for chocolate. I only have one thing because I also had, chicken mole and tofu mole, like those are not desserts. So I've engineered the way I want, people who are using this, if they really want, dessert, they don't want to hear about chicken mole. They just want chocolate sour cream cake, or they might, and then they're like, what kind of pandemic cookbook is this? And you only have one chocolate recipe? Well, actually, I have more chocolate recipes. I have my sister's award-winning chocolate hazelnut cookies from a work contest several years ago. And can't leave those out, but I did not put any concepts. I didn't assign those concepts. So although this chocolate will show up in the main search, because I'm just looking for chocolate across all of my things, they're not going to, all of my content, it's not going to show up when I search for dessert because I haven't tagged this as dessert. But if I go back in, bring in chocolate, bring in dessert, it'll show up the next time. So that's when I go back. I said, oh God, I forgot a couple. What other things did I forget? I can go back to my analysis and there's, plenty other, there's some other chocolate things there. Another, just because I know my mother's here, another fan favorite was the Black Disaster dessert when we were growing up. And that is tagged as a dessert, but there's nothing, I haven't finished writing this, so there was no, it's full of chocolate, believe me, but there was no chocolate here. So it didn't come up in the chocolate dessert search results, obviously, because there's not the word chocolate. Doesn't come up, just, I think chocolate might be, yeah, chocolate, it's tagged as chocolate, but the word chocolate isn't, so it's not going to come up in search results. So that's a lot of fun. Another thing, you do need to associate the filter with the filter set with your target. And then one more thing before I hand this back to Jen. Another family recipe, because if you can't visit your family, you might as well, cook things you like. Our dear Aunt Nell, she had this wonderful chicken dish. Nothing else she made was very tasty, but she had this great chicken dish. And so here's a, this, I actually wrote this up, but here's a picture of this. But I'm actually, I don't know how much, if you're using MadCap Capture, MadCap Capture actually integrates with MadCap Flare and other MadCap tools. So I'm opening this in Capture. Edit with MadCap Capture. Takes a second to open. And so when I crop things or add something or, put a call out or something, there's a lot of ways that Capture integrates with Flare projects, but Flare actually keeps the original and keeps all this like cropping as a property. So I can always go back to the original. You can't really see the properties in the Content Explorer. I was like, what are they? Where is this? I forgot what happened. It was years ago. But if you open it up and here's just another thing, you can always open your folder in Windows. If you open your file in Windows Explorer, if you open Windows Explorer, then you can see all the properties related to it. So that is what stores all these ways that you're marking up things. So I find that useful too. I'm out of time. Jen, back to you.
Wow, that was a lot. Thank you, Daphna. We do have some questions that have come in that I want to try to get to. Just a couple of reminders before we get to those, if you wouldn't mind pulling up those couple slides,
Yep.
Daphna, just to kind of remind everybody. Yeah, right. So I think right before that, I don't know if you have them up.
The first two?
No, yeah, I think we had a reminder about our conference and perhaps the promotion that was coming up. I don't know if you have those handy.
That wasn't on that. Sorry, it wasn't on there.
Okay, so yeah, we'll go ahead and get the deck out to everybody so you all have it, no problem. Just reminder, we will be sharing the promotions that we have going on right now. If if you're new to Flare, you're looking to acquire licenses, we'll be sending that out to everyone. So a couple questions that have come up though in our last few minutes. We have some new users, which is always great. Can you explain very quickly the difference between a topic and a concept? Because when you're coming into Flare and you're using Word or long linear kind of chapter based, this concept of a quote concept or a quote topic can be a little bit confusing. So maybe in a short little bit, can you explain the difference between the two?
So the topic actually holds your content. So this is the actual, it's going into my table of contents. This is an entry when I build it and I view it. There's a topic called Auntie Nell's chicken. It's going to show up. A concept is a kind of a metadata that you can use in different ways. So I added this, and when I build this, I'm not going to see this, but it's a piece of metadata that I associated with the search filter. So it's a way of kind of doing some back end engineering and ways to kind of drill into your content in fun ways and useful ways.
Right. So the topic is really the building block of the content, in other words, whereas the concept is some metadata to help with search filtering and some also, some see alsos and things, correct? Is what you're
related topics. I don't use them that much, but they do apply. You just I want, you can add a related topics button. It's like anything with this tag, it's going to go into this related topics button instead of topic. If you do topic X, topic Y, topic Z, and you delete topic Z, and you're going to get a broken link. But if you delete topic Z, that has that, if you associate with the concept and the topic disappears, that concept isn't going to be associated with the topic, so nothing's going to break.
Right. Yeah. This was a great question, and this came up when you were talking about the analysis ribbon, and since it's open there, I'm going to go ahead and repeat this for everyone because this is one of my favorites too, and I'm so glad this person asked the question, which is there a report to run from the analysis ribbon to find unused images?
Yes, I think that actually shows up in the
yes, in the
unused items.
Correct. Yes. And
well, I didn't happen to have any, but if you had any kind of unused kind of pieces of images, or if you had a multimedia, that's going to show up there. I do that a lot. I'm sorry I didn't engineer it for here, but
fine. It's a great question. I think you could even filter by file type up there too. So if you go up to that little drop down, you've got topics not linked. But I believe if you do that little drop down up top above the toolbar, where it's up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Right there.
Yes. Oh yes. Yes.
So unused images, for example, this is going to show you images that are hanging out in your project that really aren't linking to anything, right? And maybe you want to clean house a little bit here. So I'm sure this is something you do often just to kind of create some space and remove some bloat in your project.
Exactly. And as I said, it just makes it cleaner to work with, but it also makes it faster to build because it's not having to go through all these rules. It doesn't have to say, oh, there's this image, she told me to exclude it, so I'm going to take time. But if it's not there, it's just fewer rules to go through for Flare to do the build.
Yeah. Correct. There was another great question just in our last minute or so. What can you just kind of go back and explain what's the benefit of using, snippet conditions and variables as opposed to just a bunch of snippets?
Yeah, if you have if you have a snippet that you say, you know, warning or note, don't do this, or always do this, and it's always the same, fine, you can just reuse that snippet. But if you want to have, the same main part of the snippet, but sometimes you need to, just like I did with I want to use the same snippet. I have a column for the imperial measurements and a column for the metric measurements, and I want to keep it all in the same place. It's the same recipe. I don't want to, if something, I want to make sure I update everything what needs to be. I put it in a condition, and then depending if I want to go to the US version of the cookbook, I'm going to be using the, apply the snippet conditions for the US version. If I want the UK, the UK. Same thing with my there with that Auntie Nell's chicken. We always knew it in Auntie Nell's chicken, and then I was talking to Auntie Nell's daughter, about that chicken, and she's like, she called it Lucille's chicken because her friend Lucille gave her the recipe. So, if I was giving this to Lucille's granddaughters, they wouldn't want to see, Auntie Nell's chicken. So, and a lot of things, you'll just figure it out situationally once you know about these things. You don't have to implement all these fancy things if your content doesn't need it. It's just a tool that's there that one day you're going to oh, that snippet condition thing.
Yeah.
Time to put some energy into it.
Yeah, I've also
I
seen
need it.
I've seen it in practice too, just to kind of like real world where it's like, let's think like you had a great point about warnings and cautions and notes,
Yeah.
right? You might use those things over and over again, and those are great candidates for snippets, right? When we're using those in our topics. But with a snippet, if we put them all into a single snippet, we can apply conditions, those snippet conditions inside that snippet, right? So we don't have to have a separate snippet for warning, a separate snippet for tip, or we can put them all into one snippet, maybe use that snippet in multiple places in the topic, and then use those fun snippet conditions that you showed to control what gets displayed right there at the point of insertion. So it can sometimes also help consolidate the number of snippets that you have. Perhaps if you use that too in your work.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. There's a lot of use cases. It's like the world is your Flare oyster.
Yes. Correct. I think we have time for maybe one more. This was a really good question, and it came up a couple times, so I thought I'd ask it. What happens when you're using a glossary to define terms and also micro content? How does it work? How does it play?
Yeah, you can. It's another option that you put in the at the target editor. I think this might be frozen, but no, so that also goes in the search. And I don't have any micro content set up here, but if you have both of them set up, they're going to show up in different boxes, like on your search. So if you have, if your search term warrants you tag some micro content, the micro content is going to be, however you've styled it, but the micro content shows up in one box. The glossary search shows up in another box, and then all your regular search results are going to show up. And you can, you can turn it on or turn it off. While we're there, one thing I forgot to tell you, if you are using CSS variables, got to do this little thing. If you're for Edge, i.e. compatibility, Internet Explorer, people are still using it. So
yeah.
Just thought of that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So yeah, the search, the glossary terms, micro content, they can work together, and a lot of people do use them together. Of course, the added benefit of also thinking about micro content is glossaries are just limited to text, whereas micro content can be text, images, video. Really, it can be anything. So it's sometimes nice to use the two together, and particularly when you want to add more than just a text-based definition. But they both can be sort of these promoted, curated answers that show up at the very top of all of your search results.
Yeah.
The idea is you want to answer the question quickly and move on.
Yeah, I realized if I put micro content in, I'd have to cut something out. So
yeah,
but it was good. They do both show up. So, and I have gone to my marketing people say, okay, do you want, like, this is how it shows up. Do you want the styling? Do you want a different border box around micro content than around glossary? So you can style them however you want.
Yeah. And how do you handle terms like when, oftentimes there's some words, depending on the language you're in, they're often misspelled, right? And you want people to still get to the same search. So what do you do to help find content with those words that are constantly misspelled?
Interesting you should ask, because you can set up a synonym set. So, some people, there's a lot of ways to spell hummus. You can,
Hmm.
so you can say when anybody searches for HUMUS, they're gonna, either one, there's gonna be like, there's a lot of logic there too, but like, Hanukkah,
Yeah, there's about five different spellings, right?
yeah. So you can associate it, and we're actually, you can that's just a really good, I know that this is not, so you can set up a synonym set and associate your synonyms with your target, and so then it's just going to be seamless. If you search for this, and there's some other logic you can set up. Another thing that kind of goes nicely into your question is that we got in the last year, we've been using MadCap Central Analytics. So I can look, we have like, it's really obvious when somebody has misspelled something or everybody's misspelling something. And so we know when they write this, so I just go in the synonym set, I look at my central analytics, I say, okay, we have a lot of like specific things for countries, and they spell the name of the country wrong. I know they're talking about Tanzania. So anytime I see something, spelled wrong, that it's so obvious what it is, I'll just go into my synonym set and add that and make it equal. And it's a way of constantly curating your content to make it, meet the user needs. And
Right. Right. Well, absolutely. And I'm looking at the time we have, I want to encourage everybody,
yeah.
this is going to stay open for about another minute or so, and we won't have a chance to get to all of the questions, but if we didn't cover your question just now, please don't worry. We're going to be following up with a question and answer document, and follow up with you directly too. So we have just a couple that we would keep going and going, but I definitely want to thank our audience for being so engaged and all your fantastic questions. And thank you, Daphna, for sharing your tips and tricks. I hope these are some things that you all can put to practice and play with if you haven't already. CSS variables are one of my favorites, so I'm so glad you brought that up. And yeah, we want to thank you all for joining today. Again, please feel free to, this will be open for just a minute or so. Keep the questions coming, and don't worry if we didn't get to them live, we will follow up with a question and answer document. So I just want to thank you again, Daphna, for joining us today and for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. I hope
Yeah,
everybody got something out of it.
absolutely. And I definitely thanks for the audience for attending and for being so engaged. And we hope you have a great rest of the week. And we hope to see you on another webinar soon. So thanks everyone for joining, and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye everyone.